How's it going, y'all? Devin here from Tactical Cowboy, and I got Ethan here from Daily Dry Fire. This guy dry fires every day. We'll get into that. Pretty interesting stuff. So, Tactical Cowboy Podcast, episode 7. Had to call Blake just to make sure we're on track, because first time that I'm doing this alone, so it's going to be pretty interesting. But either way, yeah, we just did an awesome day of shooting, range day. And then, yeah, we're going to talk all about it. First, I say we have you introduce yourself to everybody. So
cool.
Go ahead.
I'm Ethan Webster. I'm on Instagram as daily.dryfire. Set out with a goal last year to dry fire every single day for a year. Surpassed a year, so now we're at second year, day 502 today. So
nice. That's so cool.
Yeah. Passed 500 over the weekend with Donovan at Point One Tactics class, and so we'll see how far.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've dry fired every single day for 500 days now.
Yeah.
And what instigated you to do that?
I think it actually got kicked off because I was doing. It was like that moment before New Year's comes and everybody starts like thinking, of, what am I going to do to better myself, right? So I had been thinking a lot in the months before of like why I had a gun, why I carried. Because I've been carrying for a couple of years at that point. But I never felt like I was comfortable enough with my skill. I never felt like I was confident enough with my skill. Never felt like I was, if I had to use it, that I could use it in a way that was going to be moral, I guess. In a way that I could say I can do this and I know I can and I'm going to do it the right way. And so I knew dry fire was going to be the best way to get me to that point. The quickest, that was the cheapest. And
because when you started this, ammo was expensive?
Yeah, I think 9 mil. I think that was still after COVID. It was still pretty high. So 9 mil was like still 30, 40 cents around on a good day.
Yeah.
But it was something that I knew I could do every day. Right, and I could set aside however, like even 5-10 minutes every day. If I just kept consistent with it, I knew I was going to get better. And so that's kind of what kickstarted it. And so January 1st, posted my first video on Instagram. The whole Instagram thing, a lot of people
I was going to ask where to come from.
Like, you're just doing this for clout on Instagram. And really, that was never the purpose. I think the purpose for it was to keep myself accountable.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I knew if I posted it on Instagram for everybody to see, I had the extra layer of like, man, I gotta post it or else I'm gonna fail for not only myself, but everybody else is gonna see me fail too. And so that kept me accountable, kept me going. And as I was doing it, there were so many people that reached out, and I started meeting a whole bunch of cool people. You, Jack, freaking Drew, Kelly.
Oh,
was like the first guy. I'll shout out Drew because he was the first guy to do like 100 days of consecutive fire.
Okay, there's another guy online.
Yeah, Drew Kelly 94 is his Instagram handle, but he was the first to do it that I saw, to do like a long stretch of consecutive dry fire, and I was like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. He's a way better shooter than I am, so I knew, and I linked up with him, linked up with a whole bunch of other people, and that's when I got like hooked with it, because there were so many cool people that were willing to teach me that are so much better than I am, and there were so many people that were encouraging, and that's kind of what got me addicted to this whole like community, right? It was just how many good people are out there that want to help you and want to see you succeed and get better. And
for sure. I totally resonate with you on the whole putting it online thing.
Right.
I've used that tactic online, but also in the past with friends, mostly it was used to be do fitness for me.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, all right, I'm going to tell everybody that I'm going to do this stupid ass 8-mile kit run or something like that. And then it would come the day to actually do it, and you've already told everybody you're going to do it, so you kind of have to. So I like that idea.
Yeah, and it also makes you plan for the next day, the next week, because as you're doing this, people are expecting you to get better, and so it kind of puts everything into perspective to keep yourself not only accountable to do it, but to get better and to do it in a way that gets you better, right? And I think was kind of the catalyst of keeping me going and keeping me from like stopping at a month or 45 days or whatever it would have been. I think that's And once you see the progress with doing it every single day, that's also a catalyst to keep you doing it every day, right? I want to get better, I want to get more proficient, I want to do this, I want to do that. And so that's helped me continue this journey, if you will.
And you made a ton of progress. I remember, when's the first time we met?
Gosh, it was last year, I know, about summertime, because I know.
Was it summer? It was
how
hot.
hot it was at that class we did. So I think it was like August or something.
And that was, and you did more pistol dry fire than rifle dry fire back
absolutely,
then, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a rifle, but it was like a Saint, and it was like really long. It had like really good gear on it. It was, my wife actually bought it for me, and so I didn't really feel comfortable around a rifle. That's the other thing. So like doing your class really helped give me the fundamentals to incorporate rifle into my dry fire a lot more. Yeah. And so that's kind of been the journey, right? I'll do dry fire, I'll take a class, I'll get some instruction from somebody, and I'll take all of these lessons in, all this homework that I find myself I need to do. I'll incorporate that into my dry fire for however long until the next class, or even a range day, right? I'll go shooting and I'll see, well, this sucked, I didn't do this right, I wasn't consistent in this. I know I'm consistent in dry fire in this, and during live fire it wasn't that way, so why? And I take all these notes and I go back for however long it is in dry fire and make a plan to get better at those.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember after you took our class, you were doing like rifle on barriers and stuff and all that kind of stuff. I had my little
chair in the basement.
Yeah.
my studs in my bare bones basement.
That was badass.
That was cool. Yeah.
That's good though. That's a good way to do it. And it's inexpensive. Right. And that's one thing that I think a lot of people miss out on, is our time on the range can be just to confirm those skills. Right. You know? We had a really awesome range day. We probably shot for 2 hours at least. At least. You got here at 11 and we left at 2:15. Right. So yeah, we did a minimum of shooting for 2 hours. Didn't go through that many rounds of ammo. No, we didn't. But we did like very focused drills and all stuff that you've dry fired, I'm sure. Yep. And then stuff that you learned with the .1 tactics class. Yep. And then same thing, I'm sure you did a ton of that man card drill that we did. Yep. Dry fire.
I have, and
then you did that great.
Yeah, I did. And what's cool about the dry fire with putting it towards the drill is obviously you can't dry fire the drill as 100% to real life as you'd like. But as long as you take those fundamentals that are being, I guess, tried in the drill. For the man card drill, it's sight acquisition at speed. It's being consistent at speed, being consistent every single time that you draw that weapon. So those things you can do in dry fire. For some of the .1 tactics drills, the same thing. Is your grip good? Is your sight acquisition good? Are you getting up to sights at the right time? So all those things you can still practice, and like you said, it's just a matter of confirming that on your range day.
Yep, exactly. So then what got you, I guess it was the New Year's thing, but then what was holding you back before from your pistol skills? Like you said, you didn't feel comfortable possibly having to present your weapon in real life. Why was that? Just because you didn't have enough reps in?
Yeah. Are you asking like why I felt that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have a video that I took of myself one day that was, I think, 2 years before I started this whole thing. And I was still okay. I could still draw from concealment. I could still do it fairly fast.
Oh, so you had a decent baseline.
Yeah, but it wasn't consistent. It wasn't confirmed in live fire enough. It wasn't to a point to where I felt comfortable, right? Because there's people who can draw really fast online, or they can feel like they can draw really fast and get sights on target. But one, can they do it consistently? Can you do it under stress? Can you do it on the range in the same time frame that you're dry firing at? Can you do it with the weight of a loaded gun? Can you do it with the weight of a loaded magazine on reloads? There's so many other things that go into what happens when you draw your weapon that a lot of people don't think about. And I'm one to talk as well, because I don't always dry fire like that either. I don't always put myself under stressful situations. I don't always raise my heart rate. I don't always practice with weighted mags, But I think that's the biggest point that was keeping me from being confident, was being consistent with it, feeling like I could be consistent, and making sure I could confirm those by actually actually going out and shooting.
For sure. So now you feel very confident, right?
Yeah.
But not too confident where you think you know it all.
Right.
Which is important too.
Hopefully I don't come across that way.
No, he doesn't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big thing too, being humble enough to accept feedback. Like you said, you have keyboard warriors, right?
Yeah.
That sometimes they'll be like, oh, you're doing this wrong, but then in a good way, which I would do as well, you ask them, so what do I do to get it better or whatever, and they never have an answer.
Right.
But you go to classes and get real feedback.
Exactly.
So you just did, I had to work, which sucked, but I would have been there. Well, it didn't suck. I had a great time.
Yeah.
But you just did the .1 tactics class.
Yep.
And we talked about it when performance pistol.
Yep.
We talked about it a little bit at the range and some of the drills. It was really fun. Some of the time standards are pretty damn tough, so
really tough.
You guys look them up or whatever. What are they called again?
The elite standards, and I think today
elite standards.
There's only 5 people that have coins for it.
That's badass.
Over his whole time, like having those, only 5 people have
passed. I like that. So really, really tough stuff.
Yep.
And we did them. They were a lot of fun. Where was I going with this? Crap. Oh yeah. So what are a couple of things that you took from that class that you're going to put into your dry fire?
So I think the biggest thing, and we talked about this earlier, was I think I'm going to focus my dry fire more on visual aggression and confirmation. And where this comes from is during dry fire, you can practice that first shot. You can't practice subsequent shots unless you have equipment to do that, which I don't. And I don't feel like it's super important.
I'd have to agree.
I mean, it's important to a point.
Oh, let me just get in here. Because then you're doing this, but the gun's not doing anything.
Right.
I would say save that like you do for the range.
Right.
Because you have to actually have that recoil impulse to feel it.
Absolutely.
At least I feel that way. Like with the Mantis system.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm a badass.
Right.
But then you get on the range and you don't understand the pressures you need to put into the gun.
Right, exactly.
And then it goes all over the place.
And on top of that, if you do have equipment to like reset your trigger, the only thing you can really practice is getting to that wall again after your subsequent shot. So, but what you can really hone down on in dry fire is transitioning targets, being aggressive with the drive of your gun, making sure that your eyes are leading to your next target. And I've talked about this with a couple people online who kind of exclusively train with Donovan or been to a lot of his classes. And they talk about that's pretty much all they do with dry fire too, is they are using their dry fire time to be really visually aggressive and really train their eyes to be fast on how they drive the gun, how they get their first sight on target, what their level of confirmation is on that sight, and getting that really dialed in so that when your fundamentals are there, which hopefully they are, that you can be visually aggressive and faster that way. Instead of being like, oh, I can pull the trigger really fast.
On one target.
Right.
Yeah.
But can you pull the trigger fast on your first target, drive the gun to the second, know to slow down on the third, transition to the fourth, move, and then do all that over again.
Yeah.
I think is way more beneficial than saying I can draw really fast and get a first shot off in whatever time it is.
For sure. Because in a real life situation, it's never going to be like we talked about on the range today. Those returning build drills, it was 1.99, right?
Yeah. So
we didn't make it. We got super close.
Super close.
I think we had it clean, like just barely over 2 seconds, right?
Yeah, yours was, I think, 2:06 or something like it, 2:09.
We had some in the time frame, but then we'd have like 1 or 2 charges.
Yeah.
Either way, though, we talked about how in a real life situation, you're not always going to just be standing in front of the threat. Oh no, you're a bad guy. Right. 6 rounds retreating into your body. You're probably going to have to do something really dynamic, move around, use your visual acuity to pick up a threat. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not just staring at bad guys all the time. Exactly. Of course, you have your situational awareness where you check them out. I mean, you go into wherever restaurant, and you're like, oh, that dude looks like a scumbag. Keep an eye on him. But then you get back to whatever, you're paying attention to your family, you're out there with your wife.
Yeah.
You're not constantly looking for threats.
Exactly.
So you're probably going to have to use your vision to find a threat. And then confirm yourself, like you were talking about earlier. Okay, you're not going to know exactly how far.
Right. But
he's such and such far away. Okay, from my practice on the range, I know I have to have this type of sight picture. Versus from me to you can have that hasty sight picture and just kind of get after it.
Yeah, and just murder that trigger, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what will be my focus from now for a long time in terms of my pistol. Plus, like we talked about, I'm changing platforms to the M&P for a while.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of trigger work with that because it's the Apex trigger, brand new trigger. At class he had my gun and like 2 other Glocks, and mine was like the worst trigger out of all of them. It's like
is yours aftermarket?
No, it's OEM.
Really?
All stock and turn.
It looks kind of weird.
It's terrible.
Okay.
There's like 4 walls, and then there's a bunch of motion to the last.
Really?
Through the last break. So, but I've gotten used to it, right? That's through hours of dry fire sitting there. I learned this from Barrett Fallbush, who's True Exodus on Instagram. And during one of his classes, we literally sat there for like 5 minutes and just pulled through a trigger. Pull through a trigger just to know.
Yeah.
That
I do that with all my private clients for pistol for sure.
Yeah.
Because you got to know that wall for sure.
Yeah.
For me, I've used Glock for now, either a Glock 17 or a Glock 19 since 2015.
Right.
So that's a long time.
Yeah.
So that crappy Glock trigger, same thing with you. I feel very, very confident with it.
Yep.
Obviously, it's not the end-all, be-all because people would go out and buy it if it was.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see your transition to this new one. Is it lighter or
it's super light?
It's like super consistent too?
Yeah. So there's the trigger guard, and then there's some pull, but the wall is super defined. So
that's nice.
Once you find the wall and you press through that, there's not going to be any mush or anything. So
yeah, like a rifle trigger.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a really good way to put it. It's exactly like a 2-stage rifle trigger.
Nice. So, that'll be good.
Yeah.
That'll be badass. Interesting. So I'm sure you had this conversation with a lot of people. So you were a Glock guy, but now you're going to be an M&P guy.
Yeah.
Why not just put this trigger in the Glock, or do they not make it for it?
They make one for the Glock. I think it's just for my own enjoyment. I wanted to switch the M&P. I mean, there was all the Grand Thumb videos that came out where
that's true.
The M&P,
like this one.
M&P, outperformed on the freeze and mud test.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
No, yeah. So the M&P did great. They did better than any other gun. And it's just a new it's a full size. And one thing, I have gorilla hands, so my hands are huge.
Yeah, you got that 19 now, dude.
And I have this
way too
bruise
small
now over 2 days of my pinky smashing into that little space in between the magazine and the gun. So it'll be a full size gun. It'll be fun to run. It fits a lot better in my hand. There's that swell, and I don't need a back strap, but it'll be different. I think it'll be a good learning, something new to learn. It'll switch my dry fire up a lot to where I'll be kind of restarting. So it'll be really, really good for me, I think. And I'm just really excited for it. So
that'll be a good learning curve learning curve as well.
Yeah.
I had the similar thing when I started using that Hydra mount.
Yeah.
I went from everything 1/3 co-witness to a super tall one.
Right.
But honestly, after 2 range sessions, it was
dialed in.
Yeah. And now it's just automatic. But it was interesting. And then when we just did the tactical games, I had to put it back.
Yeah.
So I went back to that 1/3, and I not at one moment did I have to go, oh no.
Yeah.
Eventually, once you're around both of them, your Glock and your M&P, I bet you'll be able to pick up either one and just present it.
And I already can.
Nice.
I'll switch between my M&P and Glock regularly, not always on camera, but I'll pick up my M&P and I'll be able to draw and get sights right on target. I mean, as long as your fundamentals are in, you should be able to pick up any platform.
Agreed.
And just slay with it, right?
Yeah, I like to do that at Discount Guns and Ammo.
Yeah.
That range we do the indoor stuff at. I still try to work there 1 day a week. Some weeks it doesn't happen because we're super busy.
Right.
But whenever I'm there, I'm helping people. I'll just hang out. Grab this pistol. Just like in a 1911 or something. Doesn't matter. Just do some good presentations, good dry fires. And pick up a rifle, do the same thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. I haven't had issues where I'm like, oh man.
Can't find the dot.
Yeah. I hear that all the time with people at the store with Glock. They'll say, oh, I just can't pick up the sights. And I'm like, because the angle,
Yeah, the angle's different for sure, but it doesn't
that bad. It's like, oh, I can't find the sights at all.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Is that you?
Probably. I mean, the only thing I'll say about the M&P switching from the Glock to that is the reload angle is a lot different.
Oh, how so?
I feel like when I go for a reload, I have to go in a lot steeper at an angle. But that's, I mean, it's negligible.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a 2011 airsoft pistol down at my gym downstairs, and I'll just, while I'm working, I'll pick that up and I'll.
Oh,
it's iron sights too.
I remember seeing you do that one day, like working that into your fitness, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, and I need to do that more. It's something that I have lacked on for sure because it does make a difference. Like your fine motor skills just go out the window when your arms are fatigued, when your heart's racing. Everything just goes out the window. You're focused on your breath. You're focused on how hard you're breathing.
Yeah.
When you try and do your draw, and everything that you've practiced just kind of goes out the window. So it's really good to practice.
Yeah, you know how we like to do it. At all of our classes, we add some element of physical fitness.
Yep.
And in my own training, I like to almost every time. We actually didn't today, which I guess we should have. Yeah. We were there for 2 hours, which is a long time. But always got to add in something because it does change. And it was interesting at the shoot maneuver class this past weekend. Guys that weren't physically fit, you know, the targets are ranging from 100 to 50 yards because you're moving between these barriers and stuff. But adding in the communication piece and trying to hit those steel targets, the same ones we were today, so not that difficult, right? Like they're stressed physically, so they're struggling to hit the targets and they're focusing on that, but then they can't communicate with their homies and all this stuff. So that physical fitness part's important, and you're taking a big stride in that as well.
Yeah.
So did that start when you started the dry fire, or was it like dry fire, then you kind of got involved with the community? And what made you, because nowadays you're all about the fitness too.
Yeah.
Was that always the case?
No.
Okay.
I mean, before.
Well, you're not a fat guy, so that's good.
Well, thank you. When I was like 18, 19, 20, before I left on my mission, I was really into fitness. I was at the gym like 2 hours a day. Obviously, I don't have time to do that now, but I guess I could if I woke up earlier, but don't want to.
My wife's going to watch this and she's like, bullshit.
Yeah.
When she was in her physical therapy doctorate, or doctorate program, whatever you call it, she would be waking up at like 4:35 to go get an hour and a half of training in at Vasa across the street. And she'd go do whatever all day of class. Yeah. And some days get some like extra zone 2 cardio in on the bike afterwards. And
way more dedicated than me.
So yes, it can be done.
Yes,
it can be done.
But
But she wasn't dry firing.
Right, that's true too.
She didn't get that 10 minutes of dry firing.
So I would like work out 4 or 5 days a week. But it was never really consistent. And I'm about to be a father. And I think that really kicked myself into gear on one plane. And secondly, I've seen people around me that I really care about kind of go down a unphysical path to where it's been really detrimental to their ability to do things.
For sure.
And how comfortable their life is, to say. So that I just do not want to get to that point. And it's something that makes me feel so much better in the morning. I wake up out of bed, I do my cold shower, go work out, then I start my day and I just feel way better. And I think that's a testament to how important fitness is, even over. It's great if you can shoot a gun, but if you can't run and save somebody's life, or pick somebody up and run and, pick your family up and get out of danger, or be with your homies and do everything that needs to be done to be productive or not be a liability, I think is way more important than
for sure
shooting a gun super fast, super accurately. I'd rather take somebody who's physically fit and can be a solid, good shooter than somebody who is not physically fit or active and can just run a gun really quick.
For sure.
Get your first shot out.
Well, it's really interesting you say that because like we did those standards today. Yeah. Those pistol standards, and those are like some high level shit.
Right.
For guys in the military or whatever space, and they're like, I mean, you got to be pretty good to be able to do it.
Right.
But it's not like some obscenely difficult stuff, which you might expect. Yeah, because that's what they want in those high level military units is, you can shoot and you can be consistent from all these different concealed positions and this or that, but you don't have to be the best shooter in the world. Right. But to get into any of those units, you got to be like physically really a fucking animal.
your PT standards are way higher than your shooting standards.
Oh, yeah, I would say for sure. And because you got to be able to get to the X. You know, everybody says, like, the fight's on the X. Well, if you're not of elite physical fitness, you're probably not getting to the X.
Absolutely.
Or you're not getting to the X in any kind of a mental state where you can do shit.
Right.
And that counts a lot of, as well, in just like an active shooter situation or self-defense or whatever, because maybe you don't have to run 2 miles, but your heart rate's going to get jacked up.
Yep.
And maybe you have to run 100 meters. And that, combined with the adrenaline, if your fitness isn't high, like, it could make you pass out, for sure.
It's going to be a lot worse when you get that gun out, too.
Oh, yeah. And you're probably not dry firing all the time. So you're going to fall to the level of your training. And, yeah, it might not be a good time because you didn't prepare yourself.
Right.
So I like that you said that about having do you know a son or a daughter?
I do. It's going to be a girl.
You going to tell me? Okay. It's going to be a girl. Nice, nice. That's exciting.
I'm very excited.
What's the name going to be, if you don't mind me asking?
We don't know.
Oh, okay. We're not there yet.
She's due in July, so we don't have a ton of time, but my wife and I can't decide on a name yet.
Okay.
And
you know, Devin is a unisex name.
Yeah. Devin Webster.
That's some good shit.
Yeah, I like it. I'll see if she'll veto it again, but we'll see. But yeah, it's been a really interesting journey for me. Because my wife and I have been married since 2014.
Nice.
So we've had a lot of time to be together, but not adding somebody else that relies on us. Like, we have a dog, right? But this is like an actual human that's going to rely on me, that's going to rely on her, that's going to rely on us staying together and being a unit.
Yeah.
And that has changed my mindset on a lot of things.
I like that. And you're gonna be the fit dad. No dad bods.
Hopefully.
We're not gonna have a dad bod here. And you're gonna be able to defend the family, which is the man's job.
Yeah.
Which will be awesome. What are some other, or I guess you could say, what's your? This is it. Now we're getting off topic, but why not? What's your strategy for ensuring that? I'm sure you have a great marriage. You guys have been together for a long time now.
Yeah.
What's your strategy for ensuring that marriage stays strong when adding this whole other element into it? That for a lot of people, sometimes it adds in stress. You know, you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
It like adds in other stress that now it like messes with their marriage because it's all focused on the kids or whatever. And then, what's your guys' strategy? If we're not getting too personal,
no, you're fine.
It's interesting stuff.
I think we have been super blessed to have this time together. We've had 10 plus years of being together and knowing how each of us think, how each of us process issues within ourselves, within our families, within, your workspace, friends. I think we
workspace.
Yeah. A lot of
Let's
comments.
talk about that in a second. Yeah.
But I feel very blessed to have had that time with her to really hone down on our communication.
Nice.
And I don't think in our 10 years of marriage we have ever yelled at each other.
Okay, nice.
And so it's really about knowing how to communicate with your significant other and knowing what they need in those times from you and for them to know what you need from them to solve the problem.
I agree. I think, communication is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And I think, me and my lady have some awesome communication. One thing that I'm going to try to instigate, I'm going to try to put into the situation, one of my contractor buddies gave me some interesting advice. One night we were out for like all night long. We're hanging out. It's like 4 a.m. And we're just talking about life stuff. He's got a bunch of kids. Yeah. And he was saying a good strategy is don't focus your entire life on your children. Bring your children along with you in your wife's life.
Yeah, to add on that, my wife always says, we chose each other, we didn't choose our kid.
Yeah.
And so
you're in the back seat, kid.
Yeah. But it's not to say you don't love your kid.
Yeah.
But it's to say that that person that you chose takes a lot of work. And to lose them would be a huge disservice on the whole time we spend together. And to add on that, I think another thing that we really try and do is we go to church every week. We have a really strong relationship with God and whoever you want to believe in and whatever that may be. I think a faith-based relationship is super important as well.
For sure.
and that has saved us through a lot of heartache. We did, not to get super personal, but
dude, go for it.
We had a really hard time conceiving a child, and through that there was a lot of heartache, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of just like dark clouds in our marriage and our life, where we had to like really figure out how we're going to get through this. And I think God was one of them, prayer was one of them, and just being able to communicate with each other was like huge. So I'd say those three things are the biggest things that I would say save a marriage, help people grow together and grow really strong together, and raise a really good family.
That's badass. That was a great answer. All right, so I was getting all emotional now.
Yeah. Try not to cry.
I would be too. So real fast, I'm just gonna make sure this thing's still working.
Let's do it.
Because I'm a little worried about it. Just because Blake usually doesn't. Okay. Yeah, 32 minutes. Still plugged in. Oh yeah, we're rolling. Oh, Koda. All right. Watch out, buddy. Watch out. I haven't screwed it up yet. Watch out, buddy. Awesome. So that's awesome. I like that strategy, and it's good to be around guys that are of that mindset. You know, family.
Yep.
And I want to be a protector, a provider, and all those kind of things. Your family is really close to God, you said.
Yeah.
I think those are important things that a lot of people, whether you're super religious or not, I think they need to, well, I don't know if I should say I think they need to,
Yeah.
but I just think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're not necessarily, we don't go to church every Sunday. We really try to take the weekends, honestly, because the weekends are like almost my busiest time because of the training and all that and the travel. But we just try to, whenever we have time, focus on each other.
Yeah.
And with that comes some prayer. And then, honestly, I think just the relationship with God just comes naturally when you try to live by those values. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that is really starting to miss in our society and the people that we interact with is those morals that come from that place, right? So whether you go to church or not, I think living by those morals automatically gets you into a relationship with a higher being, if you will. For sure. All right, so back to the dry fire. Yeah.
One thing I want to start, me and Ethan talked about it, is I think what he's doing is badass with the dry fire, and you've gotten really, really good.
Thank you.
Well, real quick today, we're not going to get too specific about it, but some really elite level standards that special operations units would use to hire guys, and you crushed them. You did great. I've done them so many times where obviously I don't think it's difficult anymore.
Right.
Plus, like, that's the standard. So then I'm like, okay, well, I want to be way above the standard, because they don't test you when you're fresh. They test you when you're sleep deprived, beaten down, stuff like that. But yeah, you crushed it.
Thank you.
I think it's a testament to the dry fire stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, just regular guys that go to the range. Sorry, Coda's over there just going crazy on himself. What do you do? A lot of guys, oh, hey, I'm a good shooter. We get this all the time. Oh, I've been shooting my whole life.
Right.
But if we came to a class, like, you would just absolutely destroy them. And you've only shot, didn't we talk about this? 2,000 rounds probably. But this weekend's going to offset it because you shot a lot.
This weekend.
Before this weekend.
Rounds.
Yeah, okay. Before this weekend, 1,200 rounds.
From last year, I've probably shot 5 to 6 over pistol and carbine, like, so together, about 5 or 6, I would imagine. Maybe probably less than that.
Say 5,000 rounds. So 5,000 rounds from a professional standpoint, like a law enforcement or military guy, like, that could be, like, back in Ranger Battalion, that could just be a weekend.
Right.
But I think the focus you did on the dry fire set it to where you can actually achieve a really high standard with much less time, because you've only been doing this for a couple years.
Yep.
So I think that's important. And can you talk about what me and you were talking about earlier with how to go about the dry fire to get to that standard? Because I'm sure everybody knows they've done it in their house. You could just, like, I like to put on my stuff every day and maybe just 5 or 10 reps. But, you know, you got different clothes or whatever. Even sometimes with, like, tourniquet deployment. But whatever, I like to just do a few reps, dry fire, you know, look at something, click, whatever. Okay, feel comfortable with this setup. But sometimes we were talking about earlier, you can cheat yourself.
Yeah.
So what does that mean to you? And, like, how do you overcome that to make it so you actually got really good like you are right now?
Yeah, so we were talking about how your biggest enemy is yourself. Always will be. And I think when a lot of people dry fire, myself included, so I'm not saying everybody listening to this.
We all do this, for sure.
Is we cheat ourselves and we're not honest with ourselves during dry fire. If we're trying to be fast and cool, we're drawing, we're pointing that red dot at that light switch, and we're banging, and we say, "Oh, I beat the timer," right? Mm-hmm. Or when I put that dot on the light switch, I had a good sight confirmation. I pulled the trigger, and my sights didn't move. And half the time, that's probably not going to be right. Mm-hmm. You're either gonna fumble the draw, not have a good sight picture, not have a good trigger pull. And I think that's where I failed for the majority of like the first half of my dry fire journey, where I was not being honest with myself, because I would do all this. I go to the range. I would think I had like a 1 second draw, with whatever the time I thought I had with my timer at home. I go to the range, I'd be adding 0.5, 0.7 seconds to that and be like, what am I doing wrong? And so it took me being really honest with myself at home during dry fire with, when I present that gun and I get that dot on target, do I have a good grip? Do I have a good trigger pull? Did I have good sight confirmation when I pulled that trigger? Mm-hmm. And that's really hard to do with dry fire because you don't have any data coming back at you other than yourself, right? You don't have a timer to record your first shot. You don't have something on your target as a whole in it saying where your bullet actually went. Everything that you're taking in is your own opinion, right? And that's where a lot of people cheat themselves, is they're not being honest with their own opinion. And whether that's to make yourself feel better, whether that's to just your own ignorance, that's something that you have to figure out yourself with live fire and doing all that. But that's the biggest shortcoming in dry fire, is doing that. And how I overcome that is, I don't know.
Well, you just focus. You execute the task very deliberately.
Yeah. All my dry fire sessions are focused. They have a reason behind them, and I try to be brutally honest with myself every single time.
Have you heard JJ Rakaza talk about dry fire?
I haven't.
So he's got some interesting videos. I was listening to him when I was out of the country last time, because I was doing, well, like I told you, I do tons of shooting and just wasting tons of money. Right. But he was talking about how when he dry fires, and I've done this, I thought it was really good. He draws, like his draw is as fast as he possibly can, with obviously having to get a good grip and everything. So he'll draw, and then he'll be prepped on that trigger. Then he'll give himself, like, I don't want to put words in the mouth, but how I was doing it was like a full half second of grip, like not only just grip on the gun, like where it's at, but tension, sight acquisition, everything, then break the trigger. Mm-hmm. So he would draw super fast, get there, break the trigger. Right. And then he would do the same thing on a reload, whatever. And I could be sort of messing up exactly what he said, because it was only like a 2-minute video. But I thought that was really good, and it works into what you're saying, where I know it doesn't matter when you break the trigger, but either way, you're making sure everything is right.
Right. I've noticed that too, even after I break this shot, I'll say, where's my grip at? Where's my dot at? Did it move when I pulled through the trigger? And that's how I'm brutally honest with myself as well, is taking that half second before or after, and really assessing how you feel about everything where you're supposed to be.
I remember when for a select few people, we've done like personalized, dry and live fire programs, and they were really successful. But all the reps for the dry fire, it wouldn't be that much, probably 5 minutes or so a day. The days they couldn't go to the range. But it would be, talk about, this has to be a very serious repetition, and if you screwed it up, that doesn't count.
Right.
So I would set it up like a workout. So it'd be like 5 by 10 from the draw, just prepping on the wall. And 5 by 10 prep on the wall, click. Yep. Then maybe like 5 by 10 with the reload, and strong hand only or something, So set it up in a workout format where it has to be 10 10 successful reps.
Right.
And then, just doing it real simple as that. Is that how you set it up, or do you? Because I know you do multiple targets and reloads and barriers.
I think in the beginning, I did that. I just found if I if I try to, I always try to end on a good note. So I'll say that. Where I always try to end my training sessions where I'll get like 3 consecutive reps in, because that puts me to a standard to where I need to be consistent, right? And I think that's where a lot of people fall short when they go to the ranges. They're not consistent. And so
100%.
they'll either fumble the draw, they'll fumble their sights, they'll fumble their trigger press, whatever it may be. But what I try to do during my dry fire is I have a plan, and I try and just really focus on the mechanics of what I'm trying to achieve. So whether that's driving, let's say today I'm trying to really work on
that 2 reload 4.
Yeah,
that
so
we couldn't get in 5 seconds.
I'll need to get like a really small target, and then I'll need to do a reload, and then I'll need to go back to that really small target. I'll really focus on what does my sight acquisition look like on that first small target. Is that a control or attack target? It's going to be small enough, so it needs to be a control target. So my trigger prep has to be to the final wall and good and click, get the reload in, and then go back. And so I'll kind of break that down to, okay, was my first draw good? Was my sights on target? Okay, now I do the reload. Was that good? What does my sights look like after that reload? Does that need to be worked on? And if it does, then let's isolate it. So we'll forget about the first draw out. We'll just have the gun out. We'll do a reload. And then it's all about practicing sight acquisition after the reload, right? So I don't necessarily try and do like, let's do this many consecutive reps or this many.
You just go by the feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing it for over years, so now you got the flow. You're like, okay.
And I'll say even that a lot of the times I'll just fail all day, and every single rep will just be garbage.
But at least you're getting the.
But at least I know what I need to work on the next day, right?
For sure.
And there's those days where I'll do 5 minutes, and it's 5 minutes of hell, right? And after that, I'm just like, I suck at everything. Then. But the next day, and that's when I'll quit, right? Because after that, I know my mind's not in it. I know I'm not going to gain anything from it. So the next day, I'll do the same thing or take a break and hit it later on in the week. But to me, it's all about having a plan to what you want to work on and knowing what you need to practice to achieve getting better at that.
For sure.
That makes sense.
For sure, it does. So what I'm thinking is I want to join you on the dry fire journey.
Yeah.
At least for a while. I know we didn't start on January 1st, but I think it'd be fun just to see, because we're doing all sorts of things now, like I was telling you, and everybody knows we're doing like medical and the tactical retreats in 2 weekends. So a lot of the stuff I do doesn't always focus on the gun.
Right.
So I think it would be a fun way to see if I can, and it'd be hard to like specifically measure, did we get better?
Right.
But I just think I'll be excited to do a bunch of dry fire reps and go to the range next time and maybe test out some different drills and be like, okay, it feels a little bit crisper. Right. And I think even those days that you didn't have success with it, it's still positive.
Right.
For sure. It's just like fitness, right? Maybe you're talking about, I felt like shit because I was super sore. Like, I'm super sore from Murph yesterday, but I still went to the gym for an hour and did a bunch of core and mobility stuff that was on our program. But it becomes really important, just the consistency, because then your body stays in tune with what you're demanding of it.
Right.
There's this thing we talked about it this weekend at the class called the SED principle. It's a big thing in strength and conditioning. Specific adaptation to imposed demands.
Right.
So like we talked about it with running, right? Earlier this morning.
Yeah.
You can't expect to perform well running if you never run.
Right, exactly.
But, the really good runners, they might not always run at a really intense pace, and most of the time they actually don't.
Right, it's like, 80% or...
Yeah. Like most badass runners, they either run super fast and hard or real slow.
Right.
Just to build that capacity and building their body, and their body knows, I'm a fucking runner.
Right.
So your body knows, okay, I'm going to draw this pistol just like this. But still there's mishaps, but way less issues, I'm sure, than before.
Yeah, but you're way more consistent.
Exactly.
Right? And I think through dry fire, I've been able to, and this doesn't really go into self-defense that much, but I know what my body needs to do, I know what my mind needs to do, and I know what I need to feel before I do that drill, whatever it may be. So for me, when I know I need to draw from concealment, I know what steps I need to take in my mind to get ready for that, and then I just picture myself what my draw is going to look like. I know what it feels like. I know what a good draw feels like. I'm going to mimic that. And so I think in line with that, what I love about David Goggins is he always says, even if it's a crappy day, you're still beating everybody on the couch. Right?
Yeah.
So
which is 90%.
Yeah. People. Which if you suck that day, who cares? You at least got after. You did something hard. You did something 95% of other people aren't doing.
Yep. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're blessed enough where on a Tuesday we can go train with our rifles and pistols for 2 hours and then do this podcast. So not everybody has it, but at the same time, they could be doing something.
Yep.
That's a big problem too. A lot of folks, I don't know, there's a lot of excuses, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about earlier. I did Murph yesterday with a bunch of our guys, and in the past, I think I'd gotten Murph done in like the high 40s. But either way, I ended up getting it done in 53 minutes, and still pretty good. But I was not happy with it. And it's kind of a good thing, though, because most everything I've done these last few months it just seems like winning, which is sick. Obviously, you want to win. But it's going to be nice to have a setback, like, damn, and to work on that. Specifically, the pull-ups towards the end started getting super hard. So now me and one of our guys, Braden, is going to do that whole plan. And like did Murph yesterday, that was my PT test for our program. Going to do this whole body weight and running program, and then 2 months later, come back and crush that time.
Yeah.
And it's good to have those setbacks because, I don't know, if you just win all the time and you never overcome adversity, that's not good either.
Yeah, and that's what I experienced over the weekend for sure.
Oh, yeah, so you did the class.
It was the most humbling class I've ever been to.
In a good way, though.
Yeah.
It wasn't so humbling where you're like, I'm just a piece of shit.
Yeah. Kind of. But it was more along the lines of like, I have so much to work on, and I have so far to grow. Because you see both the instructor doing like leaps and bounds past what you're able to do, and then also other shooters that do leaps and bounds over you. And I think that's one great thing about the community is that you can go to these range days and go shoot with people that are regular people just like you. They're either putting in more work than you are, or they are just have a whole different level of dedication to it, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the shooters there, Jory, he shoots USPSA like almost every weekend. Leaps and bounds ahead from where I'm at. And then you have Donovan, the instructor, who's been doing it forever. And he's like just mowing it down. So does he do USPSA? Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Is he pretty much just dominant when he goes to it, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he has people that he taught. I can't remember his name. There's that French guy who has won like 30-something world championships or whatever it is. But yeah, he's one of the goats. For sure.
Okay, nice, very cool. So I guess. Stop. He's licking like crazy. So I would say personally, I think you're a pretty awesome pistol shooter.
Thank you.
Like you're doing a really good standard, and of course you could always get better.
Yep.
What do you think? Like, what's your plan? Like, are you like, okay, I'm gonna really hone in on pistol, or you're like, okay, my pistol's really good. Maybe I need to bring my rifle up, or maybe I need to do a long gun thing, or fitness, or medical. Like, what's your goals in the next? Obviously, you're gonna drive for every day.
Yeah.
So you're gonna drive for every day, but like, what are your? Well, maybe we'll ask this instead. Like you said, something you said recently, I didn't have to do with self-defense, but I mean that's kind of why you started doing it, right? Was to get more confident. You had to deploy your pistol. So is like pistol marksmanship your main focus for self-defense right now?
Yeah.
Or okay, so pistol.
For sure.
Okay, nice.
I think for the near future, pistol will definitely take more precedence than my rifle, and the reason I
for self-defense it makes sense.
Because I'm always carrying my pistol. I rarely have a rifle in my car, and the reason for that is we live in Utah and it's fairly safe, and I feel like for most situations that I'm in, I can do what I need to with a pistol. But
from 100, which we saw today.
Yeah.
June drill of the month. It's going to be up later tonight.
It's a tough shot, but we got it done.
Hell yeah.
But I think medical is next for sure. I do need a lot more medical training. And then I'm building a rifle right now, which will be more of a longer distance rifle.
Nice.
So hopefully get into that a little bit more. Then either next year or the year after that, I really want to get into precision shooting. So.
Okay. So you're thinking hone the pistol skills more, maybe add some precision rifle and medical in.
Yeah.
Nice.
Kind of the plan.
Okay.
I'm a guy of limited amount of guns, but really good with the ones that I have. So
me too. I've offloaded. Getting these new rifles from Culper, I've offloaded everything else.
Yeah, which look awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
shout out to Culper Precision for making a really good looking rifle.
Yeah, and it's performing extremely well too.
Yeah.
That's really what matters.
Right.
Honestly, I don't care how it looks. I can spray paint it.
Cool is what matters.
Shit, that's true. That is rule number one.
Rule number one.
Yeah.
Look cool.
But that's good. I think for you live up near the city, right?
I live up in 30 minutes north of Salt Lake.
Okay.
But
you're
still
always in town. Yeah. That's kind of
my neighborhood is like suburbia type, so it's still doesn't matter. But
yeah, so I think focusing on the pistol is good. What I think is interesting is I think people need a wake up call with their pistol performance. Yeah. Like you said, you had a wake up call this morning with the class.
Yeah.
But you're really good.
Right.
Like guys think they're whatever. Oh, I can defend myself. But they're not even half as good as you.
Right.
And this is like tons of people.
A totally different story.
Yeah, but they just train to a different standard. They don't have that same mindset.
Yeah, and I think it all goes back to what we were talking about is being honest with yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And saying, can I really do it that fast, or can I really perform at this standard that I say I can?
Under stress.
Under stress, under whatever circumstance it may be. Like, I've gone to a couple USPSA matches, and I think I'm fairly decent.
So how did that go?
It's a wake-up call every single time.
Did you go to so Tommy goes to those, right? What range is it? It's up north.
Big Salty.
Yeah, so that's like, there's like 100 people there usually, right?
A lot of people, yeah.
So how did that work out for you with those rankings?
So the first time I did it, I did okay. But second time I went, I did really bad. And I got my...
Oh, was it just like a...
Well,
like you were like expecting, you kind of like had your mind set too high?
I'm not going to like give an excuse of that it was my reman ammo, but it kind of was. But I got in my head.
Had a bunch of clicks?
Yeah, and I got in my head. But it was a good learning experience, right? Because I got in my head in the first half of the comp, and then I wasn't able to perform to a standard that I knew I could perform at. And just like you said, it's just another wake-up call to how much I need to learn, how much better I can be. Mm-hmm. And then you see all these other performers who perform to such a crazy standard.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, there's gaming to it. Yes, there's all these other...
There's a lot to learn there.
There's a lot to learn there. But in terms of raw skill, these dudes that do really well will outshoot you any day.
For sure.
Whether it's gamed or not, whether it's a target that's... just one target or two, they will outshoot because their fundamentals are way better. Mm-hmm. And it's all about being honest with yourself. It's putting yourself against the clock. It's putting yourself to, you get one shot and one shot only on that stage. And whatever happens, and it gets recorded, and then you get ranked on that, right?
Yeah.
There's no do-overs like there is in dry fire. There's no second chances. Mm-hmm. You have to perform, and you have to step up to the plate. And can you do that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where dry fire comes in really handy, is you build that consistency to where I get up to that stage, and as long as I know I'm going to shoot, I know I can do well.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's what's really nice about competition shooting is you really have to perform, and you get one shot at it. Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited. I want to get involved in some of that. The only damn problem is it's always on a freaking Saturday.
Right, where you're always working.
I know. We do have those that discount guns and ammo. It's like Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's crazy schedule. Yeah. But either way, those are fun. But they're also at an indoor range, and I'm kind of just over indoor ranges at this point in my life.
Dude, they're loud when you go back. If you shoot outside for a long time, you go indoor, you're like, it is deafening in here.
Yeah, it's just not fun, and it's always, no matter how clean they make it, it's just always, dirty, and I feel like shit after I leave because you're breathing in all the fumes and everything.
Yeah,
but I want to get,
for sure.
I want to get involved in that. We're thinking about setting up a competition, something interesting to take out an element of that, the gaming it.
Yeah.
Because I've done overseas, I did some fun competition stages, and then obviously you game it because you want to do the best, and they're super fun.
Right.
And then even if you do it 3-4 times, the fourth time is incredibly better than the first time, because you're like, oh yeah, maybe I could try this, maybe I could do this. Exactly. But the pros, they've done so many competitions, they know
right the first time.
Yeah, they know exactly how they're going to run it. We're thinking about setting something up, and I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. something, you know our range.
Yep.
So it's 800 yards deep and 400 yards wide. We're thinking about setting something up in teams or maybe solo. Teams would be fun because then you got homies.
Right.
But we don't, like, obviously you're going to have a rifle. You wouldn't be able to hit anything.
Yeah.
But you can bring a 7-inch AR. You can bring a 6.5 PRC bolt gun, whatever you want. You and a buddy. And then it starts at the beginning of the range. And there's only 3 stages of the competition. We could only have like 10 teams because this would take all day long.
Right.
And the last thing I want to do is just stand there waiting for people.
Watching people shoot, yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've heard how it is at those ones up in Big Salty. Like, you're there all day.
And that's another hard part because you shoot a stage. And you're waiting like 30, 45 minutes till you shoot again. So you have
honestly, that's not that
time.
bad. Dude, at tactical games, it's like 2-3 hours.
Right, but that's even harder.
Like,
you get all this cold time, and then you have to perform again cold.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's another added pressure to like perform, you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. So what we're thinking about doing is, we have all these barriers and all this space to put steel and all this shit. What we're thinking about doing is, we're at the road, so you'd be able to look and see barriers and some steel way out in the distance, whatever. And then it's a stage where you and your buddy, or just you if we do it solo, run. So you start with all your shit. You don't know how much ammo you need.
Right.
You can run with the rangefinder and bonos if you want. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. But you get to a barrier, and that barrier is painted a certain color. And you have to shoot and hit all the pieces of steel that are that color. You don't know how many there are.
Yeah.
You don't know where they're at. Obviously, they're somewhere inside of the 400-yard range.
Yeah.
But you're looking around, so you not only have to figure out how far they are. Oh, yeah. You not only have to figure out how far they are.
Yeah.
So you got to range estimate. You got to hit the targets. You got to find them, and then you got to be like, did I find all of them?
Right.
So it kind of adds in some sort of, I guess you could say, hasty reconnaissance type stuff.
Right.
Anyways, and there will be somebody at that station, somebody that goes with you, just to make sure.
Yeah, you hit all the targets.
And you're safe, right?
Yeah.
But they don't tell you if you hit all the targets or not.
Oh, gotcha.
So you have to be like, okay, I'm moving on.
Right.
And if you miss a target, there'll be some sort of like bad penalty or whatever. Then you're on to the next one. Maybe end on top of the container or something.
Yeah.
And then you're good. I like on top of the container because you could like literally go left
and
right, or like right below you.
Right.
Stuff like that. Then the second stage is we still start at the road. You know the layout, but you do it in reverse.
Oh, really?
So if you can remember the layout,
right,
which would be difficult,
right.
then you have that long, like 600-meter movement.
Right.
That's going to get you smoked cardiovascularly wise.
Every time.
Then you do that the way back. So now you might have like, okay, I kind of remember where they are. And the last stage is just like a winner-take-all performance thing. Did you get to use our auto targets?
Yeah.
That like you don't know when they're gonna go down.
Right, you don't. Yeah, I remember burning down some of those targets. Too.
Yeah,
it's just like.
And then finally, you hit enough times.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's this zone where you have to hit it.
Yeah.
How many times, or if it's the whole target, 1 hit, 5 hits. So like winner take all on top of the container. Or no, sorry. What we're thinking is in the container with the windows.
Yeah. And
then each side of the window is painted a different color, and each target has a spray painted color on it.
That'd be a lot.
So it'd be like the red, all the red auto targets, and you're shooting them, and you get them to go down and move on to the blue and the green.
That'd be tough, dude.
Yeah, because it's all unknown distance, unknown target array, all that kind of stuff. What do you think about that?
I think it would be good to do because you can't game it, right?
Yeah.
You can't, once you get there, obviously you can, but there's so many unknowns. It's really good. Because when you do USPSA, you can walk through and stage plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have in your head, I'm going to shoot it this way. I'm going to do this maneuver at this spot. I'm going to transition here and shoot these first. And then, but with this, everything is unknown. And so every part of your performance is on demand.
Yeah.
Right?
And you add in the fitness component too.
Right. Because
you could be
smoked when I took your class. I remember you had us run like 150 meters to the ladder. Then we had to climb up the ladder, and then shoot all those targets from a barricade, and that smoked me.
That shit's tough.
Yeah.
So I think we'll do that maybe towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
Maybe wait until there's snow or something.
Even harder.
Just to make it
even harder.
Well, what's hard about that out there, we found out this year, because it was our first winter, that they had a lot of snow out there, is you can't see your impact if you miss.
Oh, really?
Because it's all white.
Right.
That's true. What a nightmare that was.
I bet. You have to have somebody shot calling for you. Right?
Yeah, so that's why we're thinking we could do it in teams.
Yeah.
And then we could be like, you could have one shooter, one spotter. You could have two shooters.
Yep.
You could have, also it's going to be unknown. We'll give you the parameters of the range, but you don't know. We could have the first bear at 800.
Right.
Or it might be all the way in at 400. You just got to show up and be like, man, one of my guys brought a fucking bolt gun.
Yeah.
Everything's like 500 and in. It's like, well, do we really even need them at this point?
Right.
So,
well, it's good too because that's how it's going to be if you ever need to deploy that, right? You
exactly.
don't know what the target's going to be like. You don't know how many people there are going to be. You'll have to make that decision in the moment and be confident in it.
You have to identify the proper threat in this situation to be like the red steel instead of just shooting whatever. That's interesting you said that. I'm going to bring up an interesting point that I'll be excited to see what you have to say. What do you zero your EOTech at?
25.
Oh, interesting.
No, sorry, not 25. 50.
Yeah, most guys do a 50 because that's what EOTech says to do. Or is that why you did it?
No, I think it's just easy to remember. 0. And, I mean, it doesn't really matter what you zero your rifle at. As long as you know your hold, you're golden, right? For
sure.
But in terms of like my rifle, the barrel length, and what I've done it at, I mean, I can pretty much aim for center mass at 50, 100, 200, 300, 400, and it hits it every time. Yeah. So even canted on a barrier, I'll do at 90 degrees, and I don't have to hold off much left.
Too much, yeah.
So it's really worked out for me. I mean, I know a lot of people love that 36 yard zero, but to me, it doesn't matter as long as you know your holds.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't. If you know it's 100 yards, I know I need to hold at this, and I'll hit it. Yeah.
One thing I did with this testing out that Hydra.
Yeah.
So all those rifles, all those rounds I did on that Culper rifle.
Yeah.
The 3000 and 3000, and now we're probably like 6,500 into it.
Right.
Those were all with that Hydra as well.
Yeah.
So I was like, when I started using it, I was like, man, it's so tall.
Skyscraper.
What am I? How should I zero it? You know.
Right.
And that's also, I was looking online. Everybody uses it for such close distances. Like nobody's like, oh, if you zero it here, like nothing. Yeah. So I'll be excited to show that data. But either way, I ended up zeroing it at 100, and I kind of took some just thinking about it. Like, okay, if I zero it as far out as possible, there shouldn't be too much rise and fall and all this crazy shit. Because if I did it at 25, obviously it's going to be exactly. But also, I took into account thinking of it from a realistic standpoint. Like 50 or 100 are my go-tos. Because in real life, you don't know how far the threat is.
Right.
I've never once been like, overseas in my time in the military, that guy's 125 yards away.
Yeah.
You just look, and then if you have to engage somebody, you do.
Right.
And 99% of the time, I found myself there is no like thought of a hold.
Right.
You just do it.
Yeah.
So I did the 100, so then therefore I could hold high in the sternum on somebody. And probably out to, I've seen with that rifle right here, out to 300, I'm going to hit the guy, no matter what. And even at 7, right? Or 3 yards, it's like, oh, there's height over bore. Yeah.
But if you're holding right
there. If I hold right here, it's going to be right there. Yeah. Yep. So even if you think about it in the face as well, you're going to impact somewhere on the face out to 200 yards.
Right.
So I ended up going with that 100-yard zero just because you never know the distance in real life, like you said.
And you're not going to, think before you shoot at the distance. Let's be honest. You're not going to look at that if it's really a threat. You're not going to be like, let me figure out what distance he is at first.
Exactly.
So, there is that aspect to it for sure. But as long as you know, what your deviation is. Exactly. I think that's maybe a better way to put it. What's your deviation at each distance from where you're aiming at? And is that acceptable for most encounters? Right? Mm-hmm. So... I don't know. That's what I do.
For sure. Yeah, I noticed. I ended up going to the 100 because I was running a Mark 18 with this regular height aim point with a 25-0. And that thing at 100 fucking yards would be like, you'd aim here to hit here. And then I was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be thinking that. Like
invert your aim, right?
Oh, it was a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because some of those quals that we did for the night vision operator course is similar to the stuff I was having to do. So you had to like run, get into position, and take 2 fast shots, like standing, kneeling, prone, all the way from 200 into 50.
Right.
So then at 100, it was like a huge pain in the ass.
Oh, I bet.
Because I had to remember to hold low.
And that's not
and like,
never
this
your
sucks.
natural point of aim either.
No.
It's never going to
no.
be at the crotch, right?
Not at all, not at all. And then if I would aim where I naturally wanted to, up in the chest,
right.
then if I fucked up left or right, which could happen, 100 yards kneeling, it's easy
Yeah.
to go this way, and now you fucking miss.
Yep.
So yeah, I ended up going to 100 just because I know I can't screw it up.
Right. Oh, you can get flack for it still.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But who cares?
Interesting.
But I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me about holds when you're dry firing as well. Because if you think about it, if you have those like 1/3 targets or whatever.
Yeah.
And
me and you talked about this, right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about after the rifle class you went to.
Yeah.
I think we brought up like use a small target, and then of course you'd never. Okay, I guess you could figure out the math, but
right.
the target. So I'm 5 yards away, so the target has to be 2.5 inches or
right.
some bullshit. But you could just write. Did you do this right? You wrote on the target like 200.
I have before, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll do my holds or whatever, but I think it goes hand in hand to where your dry fire should match exactly what you're going to do in live fire. And so whether you know that you need to hold, like you said, at your crotch or your belly button, if you make in your mind like that's a 15-yard target, that's a 5-yard target, you should be doing exactly where you would hold in real life.
For sure.
And that's where a lot of people mess up too, right? Which I'm sure you see all the time.
Oh yeah, they just hold the exact same spot.
Yeah, all your classes like make you go out to distance, and that's what I loved about our rifle class that I did with you is we took our rifles out to 400, right?
So where were you holding them?
400
probably
was,
like here.
Was at the shoulder. And
at the shoulder, yep, that makes sense.
200, I think I had to aim low, but that was about
interesting.
The only one.
Interesting. I could see that though. So it's different with every rifle.
Right.
Same thing. We see it.
Mine's short, right? So it's like doesn't have all that energy behind it, but
you were still nailing steel at 400.
Yeah, with the 1 power EOTech behind you. So it's like as long as you know your holes and where you got to hit, you'll be fine.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I was impressed with that. Well, I mean, I wasn't necessarily impressed because it's expected. With that Hydra, everybody's like, you can't shoot out the distance. Well, we shot 600 no problem because we just know where to put the reticle.
Exactly.
And you break the trigger. But I like that you said that because everybody is the 25 and in guy with their rifle.
Yeah, and we talked about this.
Yeah, so for our first drill of the month that we ever did, which was April, it was strong or full grip, strong weekend pistol shooting at 25. Tons of people did it.
Yep.
Everybody loves pistol.
It was hard too.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. I remember I redid it with my 9mm Glock, and I just sent it and went way faster. But when you're like on camera and it's like this is it or this is not it, like boom, we're ready to rock and roll. You go slower. Because you're like, there's no redos right now.
That's what happens with dry fire and live fire. You go super fast by yourself, but when people are watching or there's a target that's going to show you what you actually did, you go way slower.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, even when me and you shot today, there was some amplified stress because we're like, we don't want to look shitty in front of each other,
exactly.
Which is good. It's important.
Yeah.
But going back to the drill of the month, the May drill of the month was the standing, kneeling, prone, kneeling, standing.
Yeah.
At 100 yards, and we had like a third of the people do it. Now, is that because not many people can shoot at 100? Maybe. But I think a lot of it is because people are scared to shoot their rifle that far away on paper and then cold and then go show the target.
Exactly.
Because everybody wants to do the super sexy 25-yard rifle shooting, which you need to get good at it because it's, likely engagement distance. Yeah. But in a lot of my experience, unless it's inside of this, which is you don't really have to think anymore.
Right.
Do you really even have to get on the reticle? Probably not. Of course, I advocate to know where your rounds are going. But if you entered this space and I came in that door and you were the bad guy, probably not going to be too. There's going to be just pointing and shooting. Everybody wants to do the close stuff, but nobody wants to do the far stuff.
Right.
And it just kind of sucks because these rifles are made. That's what they're made for. I always say you want to be the 100 to 600 guy, not the 25 and in guy.
Right, exactly.
Because everybody can be the 20. Well, most people can crush the 25 and in, but you see in the classes, some guys you were doing quite well when we pushed the distance.
Yeah.
And in every rifle class, we'd go up to a minimum of 100 on paper.
Yeah.
And
it was miss. And that's what's hard to like tell yourself is like when you go out to 100 yards is I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to realize that and put yourself in the position to fail. And I think that's the hardest part people have is they don't want to fail. They don't want to feel the being ashamed of failing, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't put themselves in that situation to learn from their failure. And I have that all the time. Like I don't want to look bad on camera. I don't want
Of course not.
I don't want to show the world how much I suck, right? But that's the only way to grow, and that's the only way to get better. But what does that speak to if you can't hit at 100 or 200? You no longer know where your rounds are going, and you're not accountable anymore.
Exactly.
Right? So the best place to do that is to put yourself out in that position and make sure you know where your round is going to go. I'm sure you've had tons of time behind that, but I think that's a huge part that people miss, like you said, is they just don't want to see themselves fail, and they don't want to put in the work to push past that failure or to make themselves fail and then learn from it.
For sure. But yeah, going back to the holds though, another thing interesting we see. So because we push all the rifle classes, we always do shooting at 100 on paper. And sometimes there'll be guys where you'd think, okay, 50 yard zero, 16-inch barrel, round movement super fast, we're barely going to see any deviation. And then there is deviation. And then there's other guys where it's like a shorty like yours with some tall mount, and you're thinking, oh, there's going to be a huge change, and there's not.
Right.
It's just so interesting that like you can never trust what you read on the internet.
Never.
Where it says, you'll hit here. It's like so often not the case I've seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was actually surprising. This speaks to how important it is to go shoot this far. As like I thought when Angel like made us go out to 400, I was like, there's no way I'm hitting that target. My 1 power EOTech and my shorty rifle. Yeah. But as long as your fundamentals are honed in, which I think this drill of the month will be really good because your fundamentals have to be locked in to get that shot. But to know that your fundamentals are dialed in and I was able to do it, and that's what was so cool about that class. Yeah.
Well, did you feel the same way today, shooting at 100?
Yeah. I mean, I missed it.
So I've done that, but you still hit it multiple times too. I've done that a lot, so I knew like, oh yeah, we'll hit it, no problem. Right. Well, not no problem, but it was exciting for you to be like, fuck. But then you did it, and you're like, damn, now you have a new level of confidence.
Right.
So,
but
anyways,
that's because I've never done that before.
What we're getting at is, way too many of y'all are shooting your rifles too close, and you're too scared to shoot at 100 on paper. So
go do it.
Yeah. Well, we gave me another opportunity, even harder actually. Yeah. So this month's drill of the month is going to be the June drill of the month. You have 5 attempts. It doesn't have to be cold. You got your pistol from concealed. We did it from concealed because I think, why not, right? Another element. Yeah, it's better. It's more realistic for me and your application, that's for sure. So pistol from concealed, 100 yards on a C-zone size steel. And you get 5 attempts, and you only get 1 round to try to hit it. So if you miss all 5, I guess you miss all 5. Yeah. Please don't be too scared to share the video. Probably will be, but whatever. Yeah. But either way, if you get one of your 5 hits, then that's your time. So I think we ended up getting like 3 and then 2 and a change or something like that, which I was pretty happy about.
Yeah, yours was 219, I think.
219. Okay, 219. So that's the time to beat. And I'll be really interested to see the results.
So am I. There's going to be a ton of you that are going to beat me, though. I think my time was
3:2 or something.
3:2 or something like that.
I don't think a ton of people are going to beat you.
Unofficial time was 191. I did get one.
Yeah, and that was badass.
Yeah, but what you'll gain from it is where your fundamentals are at. Is your grip good? Mm-hmm. Is your trigger press good? Is your sight good? So we obviously know it has to be a static dot. You got to put that trigger to the final wall and do a crisp breakthrough. So are those fundamentals dialed in? And if they're not, you might fail. You might get lucky. But if you do fail, learn from it. Dry fire it. Figure out what went wrong, and just get better.
For sure. I think a lot of people might surprise themselves too.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Shoot. That was the first time I ever shot that far with a pistol.
Yeah. So. Another element is kind of like figuring out your holds.
Yep.
Or before we did it. Oh, by the way, you could try it as many times as you want. We only did it once.
Yeah.
But for you guys that just like have to be, I just have to get the best score in this drill. I don't care how many times you do it, but when you record it, like the 5s, I don't know, just don't be recording it like nonstop and then do one. Don't be lame like that. Just be like, okay, everybody record you. Okay, here's my set of 5.
Yeah.
And just do it. I guess you could just sit there all day.
But then again, it's going back to being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Are you doing it for clout or are you doing it to get better?
Exactly. It'll be a good test on your fundamentals. And yeah, one thing also we talked about today, which I think is important, is people need to get, just like with the rifle, more comfortable at distance with their pistol.
Yeah.
Because they had the Dickin guy or whatever.
Yeah, the Dickin drill.
Yeah, 40 yards. I know a lot of people, that's kind of similar to what we did today. A lot of people struggle with that distance. They're scared of it. Right. I remember getting into some extracurricular stuff after I got out of the military. A lot of like the quals, like that 25 one, that one used to be intimidating to me.
Right.
So I was like, oh gosh, 25 yards, going fast-ish. Can I do it? Because most of the time I hadn't shot out that far.
Right.
And then, but now, I mean, 25 yards, that's nothing.
It seems close.
Dude. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It seems close. So we need to get much more confident with distance shooting, for sure. We're talking about me and my buddy were out in front of my house. There's a gym across the street. And if somebody started killing people in that gym parking lot, 150 yards away, I probably need the ability with my handgun to reach some sort of distance. Now, you got to think of accountability and your backstop and all that. Is it going to be safe? But if it is safe, I'm going to be kicking myself in the ass because, man, I have to like close the distance all the way to
10 yards.
Yeah. So maybe I do that, or maybe I'm just not even an asset.
Right.
Because I'm like, I suck past 25. Mm-hmm. So that's not going to be good if we're trying to be 2A people.
Right. Exactly.
Either.
And I think where it all goes back to how have you trained to be comfortable at X distance, right? So how have you shot past your usual 7 to 10 yards? Mm-hmm. How comfortable are you at 40? Like today, I was really comfortable at 25 yards. When I did the man card drill last year with Achilles Tactical, like I did not feel comfortable at all, right?
Gotcha.
It seemed so far away and I was missing every shot. But now today we both hosed it down. We didn't do the last one because it was from concealment, but just being comfortable and knowing your confidence level is huge in terms of where your training's at.
For sure. And honestly, just training with other guys that can do it too, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we both smoked those because like we're both doing it. So it's like, well, I can't just be a bitch and not do it now.
Can't have Devin beat me.
Yeah. So that was tough from concealed. That was silly. That was really silly.
It was harder than I thought it was going to be for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, so I think we've been going for like an hour and some change. That doesn't mean we have to stop. But are there any kind of like interesting points that you thought of that you wanted to talk about today? I know we talked about like why you started dry firing, the benefits of it, our range day, our drill of the month.
Yep.
It's like the collaborative team drill of the month. And I'm really excited to see if any sub 2 would be sick.
Sub 2 would be sick because it felt great when I did it. But to do it like
on demand?
Yeah, on demand would be awesome.
So that was, I mean, I guess we can't count it, but
unofficial 191.
Unofficial 191.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you beat it, congrats, you're way better than that. So, but one thing I will say is probably the biggest question I get most often from people is how often do I dry fire every day? And I think that's
or how much time you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. How much time do I put into dry firing every day? Because I think it's a huge misconception to where you have to set apart this whole part of your day to dry fire, right? So I promise you that if you dry fire for at least 5 minutes a day, that you will gain leaps and bounds over yourself from when you start. So for me, it's at least 5 minutes. Always 5 minutes. So
you set a timer or something, or you're just like, all right, it's been...
I look at my phone when I start, and then I'll look at it before I leave to make sure it's at least been 5 minutes. So It doesn't have to be drawn from your holster. It doesn't have to be aiming at targets. You can literally sit there for 5 minutes and pull your trigger. That's what my mom's been doing. That's what some other people that I've talked to have been doing. At least 5 minutes. Get that 5 minutes in and you'll be so much more comfortable, more confident, and more consistent with whatever you're doing. And I think a lot of people feel like you have to put too much time in. I think people think, I gotta dry fire for 30 minutes or an hour to get good at anything. If you do 5 minutes, you'll see yourself like exponentially grow. Way faster than you think. So do 5 minutes. Tell me how you do. If you have any, and I'll say this to anybody watching this or listening, if you have any questions, anything you want to talk about dry fire, just reach out. I'll be happy to help.
Well, what I'm thinking is, so we were talking about this earlier. I want to get like Tactical Cowboy family involved with the dry fire.
Yeah.
Because I know they would do it, or at least most of the time they would do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it every day. So how do you want to go about that? So basically what I'm asking Ethan is for him to give me some sort of not a plan.
Yeah.
It could even be as little as, like you said, how you do it. I'm focusing on this, and this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
So is that how you want to do it?
Sure.
And then
let's make some goals, and then we'll find
Yeah.
out what drills we want to do during our dry fire and what we want to focus on.
Yeah.
That'll be a good plan.
Yeah, so TCTS is going to get involved in this daily dry fire thing.
Awesome.
It's all about consistency. I think I heard a quote the other day. I like to, when I'm in the gym, listen to like motivational speaking and stuff. Do you do that too?
I listen to podcasts when I'm at the gym.
Oh, yeah. You're like, it's something about like if you do something for 100 hours, and that could be as little as however many minutes a day or minutes in a year. That's what made me think of it when you talked about the minutes.
Yeah.
If you do something for 100 hours, that's gonna get you to that next level.
Absolutely.
When the other guy, maybe he is like, I can't even fathom getting in 5 minutes a day.
Right.
Well, you do that over a year span, and you're gonna crush him.
Right. And I get that a lot too. Is like I don't have time to dry fire. You do.
But you got time to watch TV at night.
Well, I've said this to some people, and they're like, "Damn it, you're right." I was like, I don't have time to dry fire. I don't have 10 minutes out of the day. I was like, you were looking at Instagram when you messaged me. So how are you on the phone?
Damn,
scrolling
right?
through social media or
so true.
Whatever. Just put your phone down for like 5 to 10 minutes and just go to work. Even if you don't do well, you did it. And you did something hard, you did something different. Like you said, beat everybody on the couch and you'd be way better.
For sure. I think I'm going to add in some precision rifle stuff with it too.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys who just sit there and just trigger, rack.
Yep, exactly. That's a big part about it, just the basic manipulation of the weapon. We're going to get my wife going on it.
Yeah.
Because she's also expecting, so we're not going to have her around any gunfire or lead or whatever. But she wants to do the tactical games with me as like a team.
Yeah,
I think we would absolutely kick ass. But I was like, this guy's coming over and we kind of researched it and maybe it's not a good idea for you to be shooting all the time.
Right.
But then I'm like, well, I think in the next 5-6 months, we could get tons of reps in for dry fire.
Absolutely.
Because once you get those manipulations down, like I was saying, she can hit a steel target at 60 yards without missing with a pistol, which is much better than a lot of people. So she can do this, but if we can do all this dry fire, get these manipulations, target transitions, add in physical stress, by the time she gets back on shooting live ammo,
she's gonna be money, dude.
Oh yeah, just like you.
Yeah.
See, we'll get her doing the dry fire stuff too. Yeah. And one other thing I'd like to say is I'd love to do some sort of a plan for people. This would be way in the future.
Yeah.
But maybe Ethan can like put out something
like
where
30 days of dry
30
fire,
days of dry fire, and then like we all do it together and like can give like status updates, and maybe there's some sort of a standard sort of a shooting standard.
I've had that in the back of my mind for a long time of finding like, let's say a set of 10 standards that you have that you practice during live fire, where you dry fire a whole bunch of stuff that relate to those 10 drills. You have your time that you do it, and then you do like another 2 weeks of dry fire. You go back to the range, shoot those standards, see how you improve. Another 2 weeks, or whatever it is. But I think I've never I do the basic draw the first shot. I do some standards that I find online like .1 tactics, 3/7 drill, whatever it is, and I'll record those times. But I think it'd be cool to have like these are the ones I'm doing for like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
See how I improve on those. So
nice.
definitely something we need to do.
Dude, you should do that and get one of those coins.
I know. Well, they're out of coins now, and there was like a big push at the end to get them, and I was so mad I couldn't get one. But they hand out patches now, but I definitely want to get a patch for sure.
Nice. Well, hell yeah. So, anything else at daily.dryfire?
That's right.
On Instagram, and follow this guy for some dry fire inspiration, I guess.
Thank you.
And fitness inspiration, because you're always on there working out.
Yep.
You're never we talked about this, I think we talked about it on here, but we talked about it between me and you.
Yeah.
No matter how badass of a shooter you are, if you're not fit,
you'll die.
Yeah, you're not going to do shit out there.
Exactly.
Because if you can't get to the X, I mean, yeah, you're fucked.
Yep.
All right, dude. Thanks so much for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for shooting today, and we'll do more of this.
Thanks for having
me.
me.
I would love to watch you operate at a shoot maneuver class to add that on, so that'd be interesting. We'll have you there. All right, homie. Have a good one. That's it. Success.